of the Bhagavad Gita. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Saktamana Partha Yogam Yunjam Madashraya Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yata Jnasya Tachrunu. Abhisit Prabhu, can you please read? You don't mind?
Yes, Mataji. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." Purport. In this 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the nature of Krishna consciousness is described herein. Krishna is full in all opulences, and how he manifests such opulences is described herein. Also, 4 kinds of fortunate people who become attached to Krishna, and 4 kinds of unfortunate people who never take to Krishna are described in this chapter. In the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, the living entity has been described as non-material spirit soul capable of elevating himself to self-realization by different types of yogas. At the end of the 6th chapter, it has been clearly stated by that the steady concentration of the mind upon Krishna, or in other words, Krishna consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga. By concentrating one's mind upon Krishna, one is able to know the absolute truth completely, but not otherwise. Impersonal Brahma Jyotir or localized Paramatma realization is not perfect knowledge of the absolute truth, because it is partial. Full and scientific knowledge is Krishna, and everything is revealed to the person in Krishna consciousness. In complete Krishna consciousness, one knows that Krishna is the ultimate beyond all doubts. Different types of yoga are only stepping stones on the path of Krishna consciousness. One who takes directly to Krishna consciousness automatically knows that Brahma Jyotir and Paramatma in full. By practice of Krishna conscious yoga, one can know everything in full, namely the absolute truth, the living entities, the material nature, and their manifestations with paraphernalia.
Just a minute, please halt, because it's a long purport. We'll go. So Krishna is now, this middle 6 chapters are about Bhakti Yoga. And because he told in the 6th chapter that of all the yogis, the last verse he said, among all the yogis, the one who's always thinking about me very intimately within his heart is the best of all. Now, how to become such a yogi, to always think of Krishna while in the material world? Because we cannot always think of the spiritual world. We're always looking at the material world. So Krishna is going to talk about his opulences in the material world, so that when we see even material things, we can understand that this is manifestation of Krishna. And if we think of it like that, we are advancing in Krishna consciousness, and then we will become, we can get the highest perfection. But because by meditating on Krishna, we can know him only through meditation. So now he is first telling us how to see him in the material world. It's very difficult to think of Krishna all the time because we don't know him. Somebody you don't know, how can you always think of them? So that's why he's saying, now you're familiar with all material things. I'll tell you, especially some certain things which are my everything is coming from Krishna, but especially he's telling us certain things which, when we are experiencing it, day-to-day experiences, Krishna is saying, think about me, because that is me. Okay, and so the first 6 chapters are talking about the process of yoga by which we, we are about self-realization. How do you become self-realized? By different types of yogas. So Karma Yoga was described 3rd chapter. And then 4th chapter, we have Jnana Yoga. 5th chapter, again, action and Krishna consciousness, Karma Yoga. And 6th chapter was Dhyana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. And then finally, he says that the best process is best yogi is one who can always think about me. None of these other people are thinking about Krishna. Okay, in Karma Yoga, even something, no, Karma Yoga need not be Krishna consciousness, because even an impersonalist can do Karma Yoga. That is, you do work, but you're not attached to the results. Then Karma Yoga, in which you offer it to Krishna, is in devotion. That will take us to Bhakti Yoga. But anyway, none of those are perfect, because even while doing Karma Yoga, the yogi is thinking more about the work and all that, not about so much about Krishna. But he says that only if you always think about me, even when you're doing everything, you must think about Krishna. Then only you can know me completely, everything. So then we can know about Brahmajyoti, Paramatma, everything. And about Krishna, of course. If you know Krishna, you know everything. Okay, so please.
Yes. One should therefore begin yoga practice as described in the last verse of the sixth chapter. Concentration of the mind upon Krishna, the Supreme, is made by prescribed devotional service in 9 different forms, of which Shravanam is the first and foremost. The Lord therefore says to Arjuna, Touch Shinu, or hear from me. No one can be greater authority than Krishna. Therefore, by hearing from him, one receives the greatest opportunity to become a perfect Krishna conscious person. One has therefore to learn from Krishna directly or from a pure devotee of Krishna, and not from a non devotee upstart puffed up with academic education.
Hmm. Yeah, so Tachrunu is saying, Krishna, Maya Asakta Manapartha. My Asakta means being attached to me. Manaha, your mind attached to me. Upartha, Yogam Yunjam Madashraya. Yogam or self realization. Yunjam, practicing. Madhashraya, in consciousness of me. Asamshayam Samagram Mam. Without doubt. Samshaya means doubt, right? Asamshayam Samagram, completely. Mam. How you can know me completely. Yata jnasasi, how you can know that? Tachrunu, you listen to that. So listening is very, very important. More than even reading, listening. Very important because the mind absorbs. In earlier times, there were no written books at all. Only by listening once, the student used to completely absorb it. They may have doubts, they can ask the teacher, but once it's clarified, it just registers. It's really like entering into the computer, and then they'll remember it for their whole lives. So listening, and they became perfect just by listening. So that's why, and here we are, Bhagavad Gita is directly words of Krishna. So if we must have 100% faith in the words of Krishna and full attention about what he has to say, because with that our life will really shine. I mean, will become perfect.
In Srimad Bhagavatam, this process of understanding Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is described in the second chapter of the first canto as follows. Shinvatam swa katha Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantasto hi abhadrani vidhunoti shuhrit satam nashtaprayashu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी तदा राजस्तमो भाव कामलोभादयश्च ये चेत एतैरनाविद्धं स्थितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति एवं प्रसन्न मनसो भगवद्भक्तियोगतः भगवत्तत्त्वविज्ञानं मुक्तसङ्गस्य जायते विद्यते हृदयग्रन्थिश् छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशयाः क्षीयन्ते च अस्य कर्माणि दृष्ट एवात्मनीश्वरे. To hear
So we did
about,
all these.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, to hear
Second
about,
chapter. We have not yet done it. We'll be doing it in Bhagavatam. Yeah.
I think we did some of it, Mataji. We might have covered it in the last week only.
No. It is second chapter of the first canto. So we have not done it.
Yes, Mataji, we were doing Nashtaparashu Abhadreshu. I think you only taught us like, I think this Sunday only.
Maybe he described it in another verse, purport. But the verse itself is.
Yeah, Mataji, we are in the second chapter. I have the bookmark. It's 1, 2, 26.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures or to hear about him directly through the Bhagavad Gita is itself righteous activity. And one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in devotion service of the Lord. By development of devotion service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotion service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of Ashamshayam Samagram, understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead. Bhagavatam chapter 1 canto 1 chapter 2 verses 7 to 21, 17 to 21. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the signs of Krishna.
Hmm. So it is a very righteous activity. It's a spiritual activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, so when we hear about Krishna, this is what is the fantastic thing about Bhakti Yoga. We are being helped by Krishna. So he's very happy that we are hearing about him, and he is dwelling in our heart and acts as a best fishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. And this is the mystery. How is it that by hearing of Krishna, our heart becomes clean? Because Krishna is doing that. We are hearing, and he's so kind, and he only can remove this material, effect of material nature on us, because it is Devi, his own material energy, and she's very powerful. But when we hear about Krishna and we surrender to him, then he removes the effect of Maya on us. And in this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. So already knowledge is there in our heart. Only the dirt which is covering our heart has to be removed. And then we will again be reinstated in that perfect knowledge. And then we becomes fixed in devotional service of the Lord. And so because devotional service is in the mode of Shuddha Sattva, of course, when we are practicing, it's still not pure, but still devotional service is so powerful that mode of passion and ignorance is reduced very much. Then the candidate remains in the position of pure goodness and understands the science of God perfectly. So that purified goodness means the soul is in its normal, this thing, it's not attached to any of the modes, and we already are like that. It is just this covering has to be removed. And thus Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of asamshayam, without any doubt, samagram, attached to Krishna, understanding. Without any doubt, we understand him, that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Normally, it's just theory, Supreme Personality of Godhead, absolute truth, and all that. But when you actually know the person, and yeah, this is Krishna, I kept hearing about him, but it's a fact. He is the truth, he is the person. I mean, so when you actually realize, like Prabhupada, he said, I'm always seeing Krishna. For us, it's theory. Oh, Krishna is like that, like this. We imagine. We only see him in his photos, and we think of him in our mind. But when we actually see Krishna, we can see when we are in the mode of perfect goodness, and we have no doubt at all about Krishna's existence. Absolutely no doubt. That's why Krishna is speaking from 7th to 12th all about himself, so that we can completely have faith in him. And we have to hear from the right source, not somebody who's doing it for money, or simply doing it like sense gratification. He just wants, just like that, for entertainment or something like that, or you keeps on changing according to his own ideas. But somebody who's in the disciplic succession, who's just repeating Krishna's words, or directly Bhagavad Gita is Krishna's words himself. And especially this Bhagavad Gita written by Prabhupada has done miracles to so many lakhs of people all over the world. Simply by reading this, they become devotees. Before this, so much Bhagavad Gita, so many people have written purports, but nobody became devotee like that all over the world. But now, the best-selling, bestseller book in the whole world is Bhagavad Gita. And thanks to Prabhupada. Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshyami aseshata yajnatva neha bhuyodnyaj jnatvayam avashishyati.
Translation: I shall now declare unto you in this full knowledge both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Purport: complete knowledge includes knowledge of the phenomenal world and the spirit behind it, and the source of both of them. This is transcendental knowledge. The Lord wants to explain the above mentioned system of knowledge because Arjuna is Krishna's confidential devotee and friend. In the beginning of the 4th chapter, this explanation was given by the Lord, and it is again confirmed here. Complete knowledge can be achieved only by the devotee of the Lord in disciplic succession directly from the Lord. Therefore, one should be intelligent enough to know the source of all knowledge, who is the cause of all causes, and the only object for meditation in all types of yoga practice. When the cause of all causes becomes known, then everything knowable becomes known. Nothing remains unknown. In the Vedas, Mundaka Upanishad 1.1.3 says, Kasmin yu bhagavo vigyate sarvam idam vigyatam bhavatiti.
That means kasmin u bhagavo vijnate, knowing about whom sarvam idam vijnatam bhavati, everything becomes known. So if you just know Krishna, you know everything. Because Krishna is the encyclopedia, he's the knower of everything. And if you know him, means not just theoretically. See, Brahma didn't know anything. He was just born. He was born on the lotus and he was sitting there. He didn't know where I am. I don't know anything. It's so dark. He went down. He heard the word tapa. He went up and he started doing tapasya. 1,000 years. Then Krishna appeared before him. Then after that, he didn't know anything. There was no teacher, nobody for him. And Krishna, from within his heart, gave him all knowledge, all Vedas, everything, and also the knowledge how to create. So Krishna is the Chaitya Guru in everybody's heart. So once you know him and you start talking to him and all that, he will tell you everything, right? There was one devotee called Sudama. He was a sannyasi, African. And Prabhupada was one day, sitting in his room in Hawaii, and he was, so Sudama was trying to serve him and all that. Suddenly he saw Prabhupada was crying, and he thought, oh my God, it must be some special mood. I better not go and disturb him. Then Prabhupada said, come, Sudama, come. And then he was looking at the French window across the room, and he said, Sudama, can you see Krishna standing there? And Sudama froze. Oh my God, where am I? I'm not meant to be here. Imagine, Krishna was there and Prabhupada was experiencing him. And it must have been such a glorious moment. And Sudama was feeling like, I'm not fit to be here kind of feeling. And then after that, Prabhupada said, Sudama, go and make upma for me. And Sudama didn't know what was upma. But just he went to the kitchen and he prayed to Krishna and he made the upma, and Prabhupada said, very nice upma. So he got the knowledge. Chaitya Guru is there. Imagine Krishna teaching you how to cook food. Take semolina, take salt. He actually told him. So that is how it is. It's amazing. Yeah, please continue. Oh, we have to go to the third verse, right? Yes, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatamapi siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tatvata.
Translation: out of many thousands of men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Purport: there are various grades of men, and of many thousands, one may be sufficiently interested in transcendental realization to try to know what is self, what is body, and what is the absolute truth. Generally, mankind is simply engaged in animal propensities, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, and hardly anyone is interested in transcendental knowledge. The first 6 chapters of the Gita are meant for those who are interested in transcendental knowledge, in understanding the self, the super self, and the process of realization by Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and discrimination of the self from matter. However, Krishna can only be known by persons who are in Krishna consciousness. Other transcendentalists may achieve impersonal Brahman realization, for this is easier than understanding Krishna. Krishna is the supreme person, but at the same time, he is beyond the knowledge of Brahman and Paramatma. The yogis and jnanis are confused in their attempts to understand Krishna. Although the greatest of the impersonalists, Sripad Shankaracharya, has admitted in his Gita commentary that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, his followers do not accept Krishna as such, for it is very difficult to know Krishna, even though one has transcendental realization of impersonal Brahman.
So there is, see, how many people know Krishna to be the supreme personality of Godhead? Very rare, isn't it? They don't know who's the supreme. Mostly people, whoever they've been trained to pray, they think they are the supreme. And out of many grades of people, I mean, materialists, all kinds of people, one may be out of thousands of men, one may endeavor for perfection. They want even liberation. Such a person only is so rare. And he says, and of those who have achieved perfection, of those liberated people, hardly one knows me in truth. So that is all these ages. Now, of course, now more and more everybody is coming to know because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. But generally, this is the state. Hardly anyone knows about Krishna. And so mostly people are interested in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. First 6 chapters of the Gita meant for those who are interested in transcendental knowledge, in understanding the self, the super self, and the process of realization by Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and all that. But there is no knowledge of you, Krishna, in that. So mostly people try to know impersonal realization. That is easier than understanding Krishna. It's easy to understand that you're not this body, Nirakar. That they understand. Okay, Bhagavan, I'm also Nirakar. I don't have a material form. That means I don't have a spiritual form also. I'm simply one dot. And then I go and mix with the whole lot of light, and I also become God. So this is what very easy to understand. But to understand Krishna, how long it takes to understand he's a person, one person controlling everything? Impossible. That's what people cannot, it's mind boggling. And who are all the other devatas? Who are these? Very difficult. People are very confused. Yogis and jnanis are confused in their attempts to understand Krishna. Then Shankaracharya, he understood. I mean, he's Lord Shiva himself. He knows that Krishna is the supreme. But his followers do not accept Krishna as such. For it's very difficult to know Krishna, even though one has transcendental realization of impersonal Brahman. Because we're all chanting Hare Krishna, we accept Krishna as the supreme. If we didn't chant Hare Krishna, very difficult to understand Krishna. Yeah, please continue.
Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, primeval Lord Govinda, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarvakarana Karanam. It is very difficult for non-devotees to know him. Although non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti or devotion service is very easy, they cannot practice it. If the path of bhakti is so easy, as the non-devotee class of men proclaim, then why do they take up the difficult path? Actually, the path of bhakti is not easy. The so-called path of bhakti practiced by unauthorized persons without knowledge of bhakti may be easy, but when it is practiced factually, knowing the rules and regulation, the speculative scholars and philosophers fall away from the path. Rupa Goswami writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.101, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidhim Vina Aikantiki Harir Bhakti Utpatayaiva Valpate. Devotion service of the Lord that ignores the Vedic scriptures is like the Upanishads, Puranas, and Narad Pancharatra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society.
So we can see how mental speculation is a big sense gratification. People want to keep on imagining in their own minds, speculating. They enjoy it. They don't, that is a disease. And so for them, bhakti is very difficult. You have to stop all activities of the mind and concentrate on Krishna and only take his words. Impossible. And for them, it's very difficult. Jnanis, they have more faith in their own understanding. So that for them, bhakti is very difficult. But so it is difficult. But they want to just run down bhakti by saying, this is all for sentimental people. Okay. So devotional service of the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like Vedas Purana, simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. So all that speculation is useless. Not Vedas, and that is without referring to this. There are so many people coming up with so many philosophies. That is all just useless.
It is not possible for the Brahman realization impersonalist or the Paramatma realized yogi to understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the son of Mother Yashoda or the charioteer of Arjuna. Even the great demigods are sometimes confused about Krishna muhyanti yad surayah. Mam tu veda na kaschana. No one knows me as I am, the Lord says. And if no one knows him, then Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. Such
And
a
if one does
soul
know
is
him,
and if one does know him, then Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. Such a soul is very rare. Therefore, unless one practices devotional service to the Lord, one cannot know Krishna as he is, Tattvataha. Even though one is a great scholar or philosopher, only the pure devotees can know something of the inconceivable transcendental qualities in Krishna. His being the cause of all causes, in his omnipotence and opulence, and his wealth, fame, beauty, strength, knowledge, and renunciation. Because Krishna is benevolently inclined to his devotees. He is the last word in Brahman realization, and the devotees alone can realize him as he is. Therefore, it is said, Atah Sri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grahyam indriyai sevon mukhe hi jivadau swayam eva spuratyada. No one can understand Krishna as he is by blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.234.
yeah, devotional service, he has said, it also says, na bhaved, you cannot experience him, grahyam, indriya is senses. With the gross senses, you cannot understand him, but sevon mukehi jihvadau, especially with the tongue, when you serve him. Here, Prabhupada has talked about service, but also it's saying with the tongue. With the tongue means chanting and prasadam. Through that, then Swayameva Svuratyada, then Krishna reveals himself to the devotee. So that is why impersonalists, they don't have prasadam, they don't chant Krishna's names. Paramatma, yogis also, they may be chanting Om only, not Krishna's name, and they don't eat prasadam, they eat roots, fruits, and all those things. So very difficult. While studying, how can we be in KC? Because all this knowledge, that is why, see, the 7th chapter will make you appreciate that everything is coming from Krishna. So even your studies and your brain and your intelligence, everything is coming from Krishna. So you pray to Krishna, oh Krishna, please, by your mercy only I can understand this. And if you study devotionally very quickly from the heart, you can understand fast. Those who are not surrendered to Krishna will have to struggle a lot. But if you're surrendered, you chant Hare Krishna and you pray to him, and very fast you will understand everything. Because Krishna says, I am intelligence in man. So like that, you can be Krishna conscious. And anything material also, whatever you're studying, all that is coming from Krishna only. So you can marvel at the wonderful way in which Krishna has created this world. That way you can be Krishna conscious.